اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أم يقولون به جنة بل جاءهم بالحق وأكثرهم للحق كارهون. ولو اتبع الحق أهواءهم لفسدت السماوات والأرض ومن فيهن بل أتيناهم بذكرهم فهم عن ذكرهم معرضون. أم تسألهم خرجا فخراج ربك خير وهو خير الرازقين. وإنك لتدعوهم إلى صراط مستقيم. وإن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة عن الصراط لناكبون. ولو رحمناهم وكشفنا ما بهم من ضر للجوا في طغيانهم يعمهون. ولقد أخذناهم بالعذاب فما استكانوا لربهم وما يتضرعون. إذا فتحنا عليهم بابا ذا عذاب شديد إذا هم فيه مبلسون. حتى إذا فتحنا عليهم بابا ذا عذاب شديد إذا هم فيه مبلسون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداء إذا دعاني فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I would like to thank the community of Lady Fatma Center for giving me this opportunity to be with you tonight, albeit virtually, for the first time. This is indeed an honor for me to be speaking, and inshallah, after the pandemic is over, hopefully, this could be, in person. For tonight's majlis, in which we are commemorating the Shahadat of our fourth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Hussein Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, I chose this ayat from Surah Baqarah, ayat number 186. When we look at the concept behind this ayat, and I'll translate it roughly, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins by saying and addressing to the Holy Prophet that, O my Prophet, O my beloved, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي, if my servants ask you regarding me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, then indeed I am close to them. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ, I respond to the dua and the supplication of those who ask from me. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي, therefore respond to and say labbaik to when you're asking me. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي, and bring iman onto me. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, so that you may be given a path of guidance and you may be brought to the path or the sabil al-rashad, which is guidance. This ayat I chose for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that our madhab, Deen Mubin Islam, could be called madhab dua. And whenever we talk about our fourth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Hussein Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, we understand the concept that Imam alayhi salatu wassalam utilized in the time when he was, I won't use the word struggling, but the entire Muslim Ummah was struggling, where Imam alayhi salatu wassalam had this opportunity, or rather lack of opportunity, where Imam alayhi salatu wassalam did not have any companions left. Some of the riwayat mentioned that irtadda an-nas ba'da qatl Hussein, that indeed all of mankind became murtad after the shahadat of Imam Hussein, except a few people. And so we see that Imam alayhi salatu wassalam is living in a very unique period. That period is a time of much difficulty, where his father and many of the companions, as well as the family members, have been killed. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam has returned in that such state. And even then, his life does not become easy. Because right after the events of Karbala, the following year, what happens to Medina, where Imam is residing with his family? We see that there's a surge from Yazid once again. He attacks, he sends Muslim ibn Uqba, and the event of Harra takes place. So again, they don't touch Ahlul Bayt, but still Medina was desecrated. And there was this fear which was instilled in the hearts of those ashab who date back to the time of Battle of Badr. There were many Badriyun who were part of Waqi Harra. So it does not become that easy for Imam. But Imam continues this work. It's not like you and I sometime, we give up so easily. If you want to make Imam to be your role model, all of our Masumin are role models for us. But some would argue that if there's amongst the 14 Masumin, I need to pick one because I want to be inspired by it, it's our fourth Imam. The reason is because fourth Imam has this unique situation which no one else has. He has to start from scratch. Amir al-Mu'mineen has a platform. Yes, it was destroyed in the time of the Khilafat, of the Khulafa, but still Imam والسلام, had this recognition. People understood, people knew, and they were following. There was a following of Imam at that time. Same thing with Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba والسلام, that his reign where he led, and he was the, according to Muslimin, he was the Khalifa, and of course his Imamat established and started, and he had some sort of following, and he had that platform ready for him because of his father. And similarly, we see the 10 years of Imam Hussein ibn Ali. But after the events of Karbala, you look at the time of our fourth Imam, there's no other time like this. Fifth Imam enjoys the hard work of his father. Sixth Imam enjoys the hard work of our fifth Imam. And later Imams also get this opportunity where there was some sort of following that existed. But after the Shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada, fourth Imam is in that very unfortunate and unique, in a sense, situation where he has to build from the scratch. So if you are all finding yourself to be in a situation where there's nothing left, you see all of the doors are closed, you see lack of resources, you see lack of companionship, and nobody's standing with you, this is where your opportunity is to look up to fourth Imam, learn from his sirat, and begin, even if you have to start from scratch. There's so many success stories like that. You don't need to look any further, just look into the life of our fourth Imam. I chose this ayat, and without getting into the explanation of this ayat, I don't want to go further. So I'll explain it very briefly. Ayat number 186 of Surah Baqarah says, O Muhammad, if any of my servants ask you about me, then tell them that your Lord says, I am near. Inni qareebun. I accept the prayers of those who pray. Let my servants answer my call. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. And then bring Iman onto me. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So that you may know the right path. There's some unique things as far as this ayat is concerned. First and foremost, the word sa'alaka. Whenever the word sa'alaka is used, it comes with certain words that are associated with it in Arabic. So whenever you see the word min come after sa'alaka, it usually is referring to something which is materialistic. For example, you make this dua, Allahumma inni as'aluka min bahaika mathalan. That dua is sahar that you recite. So right after the word as'aluka, you have min coming in. Whenever the word min comes after su'al or as'aluka or sa'alaka, it refers towards things that are materialistic. But whenever the word an comes, and it is concerning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is immaterial. So he says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. When my servant asks you about me, tell them that I'm close. Inni qareeb. The word qareeb has the root word of qurb or qaruba and qaf ra ba, which is again used in our languages as well. So it's not something which we are unaware of. But there are four ways of looking at this word qareeb. There are different types of qurbat that exist. First type of qurbat that exists is qurbate makani, physical closeness related to space. We said, you guys are far away from me. For example, this camera is close to me. This, someone, for example, when the majlis is happening, those who are sitting in the front row, they're close to me as opposed to those who are further away. So that is qurbatin makani. That means from the place or from the aspect of space, that how close or far a person is. Now the word qurb could also be used for zaman, time, a period, or first is for space, second is for time. For example, a person came and asked the Holy Prophet, and this ayat is in Quran, is when is Qiyamah going to take place? Prophet said, in adri. Huwa qarib am ba'id. I don't know if it's close or if it's far. Now when he says qarib in this reference, he's referring to qurbate zamani, the time frame of it. That it is far or it is near, I don't know. So the word qurb could be used for time as well. The third qurb that is also used in Quran is for possession, is for taking control, or is for owning something, and majority of the time unnecessarily. For example, the ayat of Quran says, La taqrabu mal al-yatim. Do not approach the wealth of the yatim and the orphans. الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ, those who eat or consume the wealth of yatim, they're consuming fire in their bellies. So لَا تَقْرَبُوا, do not approach or get close to. So here getting close to means don't own it, don't take control of it, don't usurp this thing which does not belong to you. It's their right, let them have it. You might be guardian over them for time being, but you have to be ameen of their wealth and then return it back to them. So that's the third aspect of the word qurb. The fourth aspect of the word qurb also comes from your kins, your relatives, those who are your family members, khanwade. So we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in Quran when he told the Holy Prophet, Ya, O Prophet, Andhir ashiratakal aqrabin. O Prophet, invite those who are your close relatives. So those close relatives are referred to as the word aqrabin, from the word qurb. So your relatives are also qirabat dar, as we say. Or more importantly, as the Quran mentions, when people were saying, Prophet, we want to compensate you for what you've done for us. Prophet said, you won't be able to. My ajr is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when they insisted, the ayat of Quran came down. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. That tell them, I don't ask anything. I don't need anything from you. But if there's something that you can do, then show mawaddat to my family members. قِرَابَ الدَّارِ. So the word qurb or qurba or aqrabin, which comes from the same root, refers to what? Refers to the family. All of these have something in common because they're all close, right? Family is close. When you're taking control of someone's possession, as in this case was the wealth of the yatim, or for example, when something is related to the time, that it is close to time of salat. You said this is getting close to the time of salat, or fulan place is close by or far away. So all of these have something in common. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he says inni qareebun, question is, which one of these is he referring to? Is he referring to this qurbate makani, that is close to us from the space aspect of it, physical aspect of it? Is he referring to that I'm close to you from the time aspect of it? Is he close to us as in the possession that he possesses us? Or is he our family? Is he our qarabadar? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have lam yalid wa lam yulad. So there's no family of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's beyond that. So you can go ahead and use the formula of elimination, right? and eliminate one after the other. It could be both makani and zamani. But I'll explain how it is possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be confined into a space.
Okay.
Allah subhanahu wa
I
ta'ala cannot
understand
be
that I have a
confined into
Oh,
time.
you want me to,
Yeah. Oh, I
Some
can take this
disturbance.
Broadway.
but I guess I
Let's see.
don't. I'm not convinced we know exactly what Islam's way is 100%. I think you can
Can
deduce
you mute
things from.
this person, please?
Yeah.
But even it's like talking about collective punishment. I don't know. I think I need to see a little more of that
Yeah.
before you
Mute
tell
this person,
me
plees.
like that's the way it's meant to be. Because fundamentally, that is just like against everyone in the body.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because my
I mean, like-
mindset is skewed or because there's something that just doesn't seem right about it.
Yeah. I mean, talking about like the
I
siege
can't
on
continue
Khaybar.
without
I hadn't heard
stopping
of
this
that.
person.
Like they surrounded Khaybar to like that's how sieges work, you know.
Yeah.
Can
You
you
don't
please
need to
stop
put
Sumaya
an address
and
in
family?
Is your phone going?
You know,
Yeah, it is.
it's going.
It's Muhammad Hassan. Sorry.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Okay. I'm gonna have to start over. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we look at it from that aspect, as I was trying to explain the 4 orbs before we were interrupted, that this is one of these 4 that are referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he says, Inni qareebun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always close to us, whether it's qurbat makani or qurbat zamani. See, he says, huwa ma'akum aynama kuntum. He's with you no matter where you are. Okay. He says, aynama, he's with you no matter where you are. Or, for example, نحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد, that indeed we are closer to you from your jugular veins. We see that all of these could be true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he's close to us. It is us who bring this veil and get away from him. It is us who cause this distance between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do we cause this distance? We cause this distance by his disobedience. We cause this distance by committing sins. We cause this distance because we are blinded by that which is our desires are leading us to. So coming back to this ayat very quickly, I spent enough time on it, that another unique aspect of this ayat number 186 is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses zamir mutakallim, that pronoun which is for first person 7 times on 7 occasions. When he says ibadi, my servants, inni, indeed I am, ujibo, I respond, da'wat ad-da'i idha da'ani, when they ask me, when they make dua to me, falyastajibu li, then let them ask me, wal yu'minu bi, then bring iman onto me, la'allahum yarshudun. So 7 times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using this first person pronoun. That itself is enough to show that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this honor. You know, this uses this first tense, the sigha mutakallim, 7 times in this verse, and he's associating us with himself. He says, ibadi, my servants. That is an honor for you, to regard yourself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to be his servants. That is an honor, that he's considering you to be servants. But as far as the dua is concerned, this ayat also makes one thing very clear. When he uses the word idha da'ani, when you ask, when they ask me. So there's a condition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting, that he will not respond unless you ask him. Now, of course, someone would say, well, Allah knows everything that I want. Allah knows alimun bi dhat as-sudur. Then why does he really need to know all of this? So no, this is how the system works. This is how he wants you to ask him and call upon him. Because when you call upon others, they might get annoyed. But when you don't call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gets annoyed. In fact, Rawayat mentions when a person prays and does not make dua after the salat, Imam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses upon that person, saying that he considered me worthy of sajda, but he did not consider me worthy of dua. So along with this sajda, make sure that you ask and seek assistance from him. So Allah is communicating with his servants. Itself is an honor for us. When they were decorating the Kaaba, Ibn Sikid said, you don't have to decorate the Kaaba. It is enough for the decoration of the Kaaba and the honor of the Kaaba that Allah has called it to be his house. Antahira bayti. O Ibrahim alayhi salam, O Ismail alayhi salam, Antahira bayti. Go ahead and purify and clean my house. The fact that Allah has associated this house to himself is enough of an honor to this house. Nothing else is required as far as the honor of this house is concerned. Imagine you're walking the streets of Qum and Najaf. Of course, Qum and Najaf are the centers for the Hawza Ilmiya. And when someone is giving you a tour of Qum and Najaf, they walk around. For example, you're in Najaf. They say, well, this is the house where Ayatollah Sistani lives. This is the house where Ayatollah Bashir lives. This is the house where Ayatollah Khouy used to live. This is the house where Ayatollah Syed Mohsen Hakim used to live. Or when you're walking around in Qum, say, well, this is Bayt Imam. This is where Imam Khomeini used to live. This is where other Maraji are, their houses are. Right away, it may be an ordinary house. But the fact that the house is associated with Ayatollah Khouy, Ayatollah Khamenei, Imam Khomeini, Ayatollah Sistani, right away it increases value in front of you. Otherwise, it's an ordinary house made of bricks. May not be that beautiful of a house anyway. You've seen far superior and better houses in your life. But the fact that it is associated with such an important personality, what happens? It increases value in your perspective. Give you another example. When you go out and you buy a carpet, you buy, when you're buying materials to build a mosque, you're buying the carpet, you're buying the, sheetrocks, you're buying the other materials that has to be used in the in building this masjid. When the fact that you're buying all of this stuff, there's a value which is the price tag on these things. But the moment you buy these things and you install it inside a masjid, when they become a part of a masjid, what happens? Now there's an added value to this carpet. That carpet was only worth what was the tag price then. There was no other ahkam shari'i upon it. The fact that it becomes part of the masjid, now it becomes sacred. There's sanctity to it. There's honor to it. You cannot make it najis. In fact, it becomes najis by mistake. You have to purify it. If you're praying and it becomes najis, you must clean it if you can while you're praying. And if there's enough time in your salat and it will not become qaza, break your salat, purify masjid, then start over. This is ahkam fiqhi. So these things right away, when they become part of masjid, what happens to it? Right away, it gets its increased value. House of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Baytullah, is also a replica of that Bayt Ma'mur, upon which the angels are circulating and circumambulating and performing the tawaf. So Allah gave us this opportunity so that on this earth, we also perform his tawaf to his house. But this house was built, the walls were raised by Ibrahim and Ismail. As the ayat of Quran says, that the walls of the Kaaba was raised by Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam. But this place was not worthy yet of being the Qibla of Muslimin. Until what? You remember the story of Hazrat Adam. Allah created Hazrat Adam. His structure was ready, but he was not worthy of sajda yet. فَإِذَا صَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. When Allah created Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he was not worthy of sajda then. The moment he blew his soul into Adam والسلام, now Adam becomes Abul Bashar. He was taught the ilm that Allah taught him. فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Then he asked him to go ahead and do sajda to him. فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Everyone did sajda except Iblis. He was from the very beginning amongst the disbelievers. So Hazrat Adam was masjood of the angels only after Allah blew his soul into him. Let me paint a picture for you that Kaaba, the walls were raised, but it was not masjood of Muslimin yet. Masjid, the place where you do sajda. The moment Allah calls it to be Bayt, it's called Baytullah. It cannot be considered Bayt unless someone sleeps in it, because the word Bayt comes from Baytuta, which is to spend the night. Allah does not spend the night. La ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. So it is impossible that Allah comes and sleeps in it. So someone has to sleep in this house in order for it to become Bayt. So this name would be applicable to it. Hence the wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi, when his mother Fatima bint Asad, out of pain, went to the Kaaba to gain some peace and solace in that difficult time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets her enter into the house, and the wiladat of Ali ibn Abi Talib takes place. 3 days they remain inside the house, so it becomes a place of Baytuta. And once Ali comes out of this house, only after which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces that from now on, this is Qiblatul Muslimin. This was Ka'batullah, now it is Qiblatul Muslimin. You can go ahead and prostrate in front of it. So, insan is superior to any house, even Kaaba. You know, with all of the integrity and the honor that the Kaaba has, still insan's status and stature is above and beyond it. I want to come, as I'm running out of my time, toward the discussion of dua. There are many other things, and inshallah, this is only just one off majlis. When I get more opportunity, I'll be able to explain and elaborate. But fourth Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi wassalam, he's living in a time, as I mentioned in the beginning, where he does not have any companions. He does not have many resources. He does not have a pulpit. He does not have a masjid. He does not have a place where he can go ahead and start propagating. So should Imam just give up? Let the things unroll and we'll just wait until things get better? No. Imam goes to work right away. It may not be in the conventional way, but he has to find the means to do so. And this is all part of the plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Imam finds this opportunity to train students, teach them these du'as. Some of these du'as are named after these students of Imam. Makarim, for example, dua Abu Hamza Thamali. Amir al-Mu'mineen taught Kumail, so this became dua Kumail forever. It's a dua of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but we call it dua Kumail because Imam taught Kumail this dua. Similarly, dua Abi Hamza, one of the greatest du'as that you'll find if you only ponder. The unfortunate part is that we read du'as. Dua is to make, not to read. Yes, while you're reading, make sure you're making it as well. That'll only happen when you understand the deep matalib that are mentioned in these du'as. So Imam uses this method to preach. 54 du'as in this book, which is called Ukhtul Quran, sister of Quran. Injil Ahl Bayt, Zabur Ali Muhammad, Sahifa Kamila, or Sahifa Sajjadiya. Who are the compilers? Our fourth Imam was Kathirul Awlad. He had many children, but 2 of his children are mentioned to be the compilers of this book. Our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi wassalam, as well as Zayd al-Shahid. Zayd is someone who was martyred in the year 121 when he rose to take the revenge of Imam Hussein alayhi wassalam. This book is unfortunately neglected. This is a treasure for us, brothers and sisters. Imam's ahwal and his lifestyle, the time that he spent, the difficulty that he went through, hardship and hard work paid off, where Imam was able to deliver these du'as to us. And what do? We neglect these du'as. I don't know if anyone can claim that I have read all of the 54 du'as with understanding, and the munajat that are mentioned towards the end, the addenda that is mentioned towards the end. It's unfortunate that we have these resources, yet they're neglected. We are a community who likes to read, but there are priorities as to what we want to read. We confine these books only to Masajid and Imam Barga, and only then it'll be open and read, unfortunately. How can I preach about Dua or Sayfa Sajjadiyah or Nahjul Balagha when we have neglected Quran? True, because Quran will be making this plea and Prophet will be saying this, Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. Oh my Lord, my people abandoned this book. They did not take care of it. So Imam, his hard work in those unbecoming or times which were unfortunate, times which were not along very convenient, so much inconvenience that Imam is facing, yet he produces this masterpiece. There's a story about this book. You've heard of Muhammad Taqi Majlisi. He's the father of Majlisi. He's the father of Muhammad Baqir Majlisi, who's Sahib Kitab Biharul Anwar, which is in 110 volumes. So first Majlisi is the father. He lived in the time of Sheikh Bahai, and he benefited a great deal from him, and considered him to be his ustad. And he asked him a question in reference to namaz al-shab. He said, I have some qaza prayers from my young age, but I like to pray and perform salat layl as well. What is my duty? Sheikh Bahai told him that Salatul Layl is something which you will not be held accountable for. Allah will not question you if you pray Salatul Layl or not. But Allah will hold you accountable if you missed any of your wajib prayers. So perform wajib prayers. That is your duty. Once you've accomplished them, then perform Salatul Layl. But there's nothing wrong in performing both. So why choose between one or the two? But if you were to choose between one or two, you only can do one, then make sure that you fulfill that which is your obligation. And don't worry about that which is only mustahab, because it's not wajib upon us, it was wajib on the Holy Prophet. So he goes about doing this. He says, I always wanted to meet Imam Zamana, and because of his wazaif and the things that he performed, he said, one night when I was sleeping, and before I had fallen completely in deep sleep, I was between being awake and sleeping, and this was a situation of dozing off. He said he sees a dream and he sees Imam Zamana in it. And he asked Imam, oh Imam, it is not easy to get in touch with you. Recommend me a book which will remind me of you and keep me close to you. Imam told him, go to a person by the name Muhammad Taj, ask him for a book and he will give it to you. He wakes up from his dream. First thing in the morning, he thinks that Muhammad Taj is probably Sheikh Bahai, because Sheikh Bahai has a Taj of being the leader of Muslim Ummah at that time. So that's a Taj, that's a crown on his head. But he goes to Sheikh Bahai, he did not offer him any particular book. Then he walked to the place where he had seen in his dream, and he arrived at this corner in Bazaar where there was a man by the name Muhammad Taj, who recognized Muhammad Taqi Majlisi, invited him inside the house. He went inside. He said, there are so many books that I want to give to you. Go ahead and pick any one of them that you want to. He sees that his dream is coming true. But Muhammad Taqi says, he did not give me any book. He just told me to go look for it. I went and I picked up the book. And when I picked up the book, right away, it was the book, which was the book called Sajjad. So he picked up the book, which was Sajjad, from the very beginning. And then he said, I wept and I cried. I started crying that I've had this book all these years and all this time, yet I neglected it. I've had this book all this time, yet I was not paying due attention to it. And I had taken it for granted. It is mentioned that he started preaching that book. He started teaching that book in Isfahan, and by which many people in Isfahan became mustajabud da'wah. That means those, if you would ask them to make dua, their dua would be accepted. You know, you go to people, you go to some scholars, you go to, for example, Najaf or Karbala, you see a scholar, a senior scholar, you see Marja, you say, please do dua for us. Why? Because you're holier than us. He said many people in Isfahan, by just reading this book called Sahifa Sajjadiyah, became what? Mustajabud da'wah, that their dua was accepted. And then because of Muhammad Taqi Majlisi, every household had Sahifa Sajjadiyah in their house. This was the barakat of the recitation. And he understood why Imam Zamana told him and guided him towards this book, which we had all along. It's just that he was what? Negligent of this book. I just want to share a couple of du'as from it, and inshallah I'll bring it towards Masaib as I have another majlis to attend. That there are few du'as that are purely akhlaqi in this book, such as dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, which name is Makarim al-Akhlaq, which is dua number 20. One of the points which is repeatedly mentioned in this dua is balancing akhlaq. A lot of time we get carried away when it comes to akhlaq as well. For example, ibadat is exceptionally good. It's an obligation upon us. Certain ibadat are obligation. Some of them are mustahab, but majority of those things that are obligatory upon us, they're ibadat. So it's exceptionally good. But it is possible that it might lead to vanity and pride. A person might be deeply religious, but at the same time arrogant and self-conceited. Imam emphasizes this point in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, that, oh Allah, while you make me spiritually uplifting, and my maqam is going higher and higher, he makes this dua, وَلَا تَرْفَعْنِي فِي النَّاسِ دَرَجَةً إِلَّا حَطَّتْنِي إِنَّ نَفْسِ مِثْلَهَا. Allah, do not raise my rank in the eyes of public except that you lower my rank same amount near yourself, so that I don't become arrogant. Or for example, dua number 8, seeking refuge. Imam says, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min hayajani al-hirs, from the agitation of craving. Here's, we need craving in our life, but sometimes if there isn't any hirs, no one would work hard, right? People will start slacking off. But keeping in mind that hirs, which is beyond the limit set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is what? Is forbidden. This agitation of craving. So from here we understand that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning, or rather Imam alayhi is mentioning in reference to these two du'as. I will come to the conclusion that this is a book which is definitely neglected. This is a book which we need to ponder, take control, read, understand. Imam alayhi spent 34 years after the Shahadat of Imam Hussein. He lived in a very tough, difficult time. He went through 6 different tyrant rulers, one after another, who made Imam's life miserable. Imam Zainul Abidin, toward the end of his life, when he was poisoned in the year 95 after Hijrah, Imam asked his son, and he gave him wasiyah to put him on the ground. They put him on the farsh. He said, no, remove the farsh. He said, remove everything. That chadar or that carpet, whatever was underneath, he said, remove it. I want to lay it flat on the ground. Fifth Imam said, oh my father, what kind of wasiyat is this? Fourth Imam responded by saying, I remember the janaz, I remember the body of my father, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussein. It laid bare on the ground for 3 days in Karbala, under the heat of the sun and the hot land of Karbala, and there was nobody to go ahead and bury my father. I still have vivid memories of that, and I want to leave the world in the same way, where my body is laying on the plain or laying on the ground, and nothing is between me and it. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam indeed went through a difficult time, and every time in these 34 years he would be reminded of food and drink, Imam would weep. He would weep, he would cry, but every time Imam would weep and cry, Imam would remember only one place. He would not remember Karbala that way. He would not talk about Kufa, but he would talk about Asham, Asham, Asham. When people asked, "Oh Imam," Minhal said, "Oh Imam, how long are you going to cry? You're Masoom, you know better to control yourself and not to cry so much." Imam said, "Minhal, you did not do insaf and justice with us. Hazrat Yaqub lost one of his 12 sons. He wept so much that Quran says, وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ, that he went blinded afterwards. I saw 18 of my family members butchered and slaughtered in front of my eyes. And you're telling me that I should not weep and cry. If I cry for someone like them, as the 8th Imam said to his companion, Yabna Shabib, in kunta bakiyan ala shay'in fabki lil Hussein. If you want to weep for someone, then weep for Hussein. Why? Because innahu dubiha kama yadbahul kabsh, because he was slaughtered like the sheep and the goat are slaughtered. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief. Imam was buried. His janaza was the biggest of the janaza. But I would say, oh Mawla, you suffered and your difficulties in these 34 years. But at least your janaza was raised and it was carried out, and there was not a soul in Medina who did not attend your janaza. But hi, Imam Hussein, La yawmaka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah, whose janaza was not picked up. Forget the janaza. The body was laying on the ground for 3 days, and the body was trampled, and the heads were severed. ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadah tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the teachings of 4th Imam and make Sayfa Sajjad to be part of our daily lives. We ask Allah to hasten the reappearance of our weighted Imam. Make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
या हुसैन, वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा, 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 नाम ज़ैनब का जो गैरों ने पुकारा होगा, वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा। लो हुसैन इब्ने अली प्यासे ज़ेबा होने लगे, लो हुसैन इब्ने अली प्यासे ज़ेबा होने लगे, कितना शर्मिंदा वो दरिया का किनारा होगा, वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा, वो गेराज़ीन से ज़ैनब की रिदा का ज़ामिन, वो गेराज़ीन से ज़ैनब की रिदा का ज़ामिन, कौन अब फातिमा जाई का सहारा होगा। वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा। सारे मैदान तू जाने तो लगा है असगर। सारे मैदान तो जाने तो लगा है असगर। किस तरह तेरे बिना माँ का गुजारा होगा। वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा। नो के नेज़ा पे बहाने लगे आंसू मौला। नो के नेज़ा पे बहाने लगे आंसू मौला। फिर सकीना को किसी शख्स ने मारा होगा। वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा। वक्त सजाद ने कैसे वो गुजारा होगा। या हुसैन।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलामु अलैका या अली इब्न अल-हुसैन। ناله با انتشار جگرش می افتاد. آب میدید به یاد پدرش می افتاد. بی سبب نیست که از جمله بکاون است. اشک از گوشه چشمان ترش می افتاد. شیر خوار بغل تازه عروسی میدید. یاد لالای رباب و پسرش می افتاد. با دلی خون شده می گفت که شام تا به بازار مدینه گذرش می افتاد. می شکست آینه صبر و غرورش را زد تا به جان استرا با کمرش می افتاد. روزه گم شدن و دفن رقیه میخواد تا به صحرا و خراب نظرش میافتاد. گوسفندی جلویش ذبح که میشد یادم خنجر کند و گلوی پدرش میافتاد. یا حسین آقا زین العابدین هرگاه به یاد پدر و کربلا میافتاد اشک میریخت. بعضیا عرض میکردن آقا جان چرا اینقدر گریه؟ آقا میفرمود گریه بر شاه شهیدان خوب است، گریه بر کشته عریان خوب است، گریه بر دامن طفلان خوب است، گریه بر آن لب و دندان خوب است. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا زين العابدين ورحمة الله وبركاته. باسمك العظيم الأعظم بدم المظلوم بكربلاء وبزينب كبرى يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء غني. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع السلامات. اللهم صل